Hello again. This is Theolyn with free Pathworking with Archangels course designed to support you get in touch with deep spiritual energies during this particular time that we're all going through, the times of pandemics and lockdowns and uncertainty. And by working with the Archangels, you can get in touch with your own inner kingdom, and you can think about perhaps restructuring it or redesigning it so that you take creative power over your own life. And that's what I teach people to do with the Schaefer method. And the working with the Archangels is also part of the same story. They're not separate at all. Right. We started with Sundial and Orion as a couple at the foot of the Tree of Life. And you should still have printed out, I hope, the Tree of Life diagram. So Sundial and Orion are dwelling at the foot of the Tree of Life. And what we want to see there is a joyful married couple, right? So Orion, to answer somebody's question about masculine and feminine that came up yesterday, Orion is definitely feminine and Sundial is much more on the male side. If you look at the two pillars on the outer edges, the yin and the yang, you'll see that Orion is at the bottom of the yin pillar, Sundial is at the bottom of the yang pillar. Okay, so that's what we have here. We have a bride and a groom, or a mother or a consort, and what we want to get from this process is that in order for there to be a happy, loving arrangement in the kingdom, the earthly kingdom, that couple have to be nicely in balance, in harmony, a happy married couple. And the alchemists and the Gnostics, they all talked about the twining or the bringing together of the contrary energies, so that the contraries, the male-female divide, is brought together and becomes what was called a chemical wedding, a union of opposites. So if we take a brief look at the top of the tree, at very, very top at the crown, we have Metatron and the Shekinah. And at the very top of the tree, the energy has come in from the great and mysterious beyond, which we cannot even compute or consider because it's so extraordinary and beyond our understanding. But the energy has come in, and within that container at the top, we have something which is a bit like the symbol for the Tao, where you have the black half and the white half, and the dot of the white in the black and the dot of the black in the white. So that container of energy, which is dualistic, it's got two colours in it, but it's interacting and it's harmonious. So the Metatron you can think of as this immensely brilliant light, the god of light, perhaps you could call him. And then the Shekinah is the hidden mystery in the darkness. And you may not even be able to see her face properly. But that's a bit like having a mirror, which has got a bright side, but you can't see a reflection in it unless there's a dark backing to the mirror. Because otherwise it will be glass that you could just see straight through. So in order to have something created out of the initial inpouring of energy, you do have to have the dark and the light. And as we shall see as we go along, the dark and the light, they separate into these yin-yang pillars, and they start coming down, crossing the balance pillar every so often as they come down, and then they arrive at the foot of the tree. So Metatron and the Shekinah at the top, Sandalphon and Oriel at the bottom, are kind of reflections of each other. Or there's the most high energy, which is unmanifest, becomes manifest at the bottom of the tree. And Sandalphon is often referred to as the twin brother of the Metatron. And Sandalphon, one of his tasks is to take garlands of prayers from the human beings up to the top, up to the throne at the top. So there's that relationship between them. What is not often said, what I would like to say, is that Oriel could be seen as the twin sister of the Shekinah. She is the Shekinah represented in the motherly energy of Oriel, who is represents the energy of the moon when we look at it astrologically. And Oriel will also relate to the sign of Cancer in the zodiac. So if you have Cancer as a strong placement in your birth chart, like ascendant or moon or sun or any other significant placement, then the Cancerian energy, the moon energy of Oriel will definitely call to you. So that's just a quick overview really of the top and the bottom and how they relate to each other. And what we're looking for is to find out where along those pathways something isn't quite balanced. That's what we want to do in our own lives. We want to say, okay, there's the energy, and it's come through me because I'm here. And why isn't it resulting in a kingdom which I really enjoy and that I'm satisfied with? So this is our project, really, to examine that. Right, let's have a look at Gabriel, because Gabriel is the next archangel up the line, straight up the middle pillar. We see Gabriel just above Sandalphon and Oriel. And Gabriel resides at a sefira called Foundation. Now, of course, when the energy comes down from the top to create the kingdom, in order to have a kingdom, you have to have some kind of foundation stone. It's like creating a building. So Gabriel represents that foundation there. Now, let's have a think about who Gabriel is. Sometimes, and quite often actually, Gabriel has been associated with the moon. But from my personal experience and also a certain amount of intellectual consideration, doesn't seem to make at all sense to me that Gabriel would be associated with the moon. Some people may argue with me that the traditionalists say it's the moon, and Rudolf Steiner says Gabriel for the moon. But let's have a think in a different way. Because Gabriel is the very biggest messenger of them all. And Mercury in astrology is the messenger. In Greek, that's Hermes. So Mercury, Hermes, brings all kinds of new information to people. And that's what Gabriel does. He comes to Mary. He also comes to Elizabeth, who has the other babies, John the Baptist. And he comes to Muhammad and he delivers a book, a whole book. So that's really mercurial. So consider that for a start. Also consider one or two other things that Gabriel does in other contexts. He interprets visions for the prophet Daniel. And then he also helps Daniel identify the writing on the wall, which appears mysteriously at what is called Belshazzar's feast in the biblical story. So he's always there as an interpreter or a translator. And furthermore, he is what we call a psychopompus. And Hermes and Mercury both have those functions. Psychopompus is a spiritual guide who takes people from life into death. He or you can have a female psychopompus, of course, but the task of the psychopompus is to help the soul move from one state to another. And in that respect, there's a really interesting story that I thought I should quickly share with you. This is in my Working with Archangels book, so if you've read it, you may have come across it already. So let me just track it down for you. Yes, Moses becomes anxious about the amount of time that he's got to live, because he's been told that he only has one more day to live on earth. And he writes out the Torah on 13 scrolls, 12 for the 12 tribes and one to keep in the Ark of the Covenant as a benchmark in case anybody tampers with it, with the other 12. So when Moses becomes anxious about the time, God slows down the sun so that it will not set until this task of writing out the scrolls has been completed. And then at last, Moses hands out the scrolls to all the tribes, instructing them to keep the commandments. And then Gabriel takes the most beautiful of the scrolls and carries it through the heavens to the highest court so that all celestial beings can witness Moses' piety. And then Gabriel is one of several archangels who comforts Moses as he is dying, and he arranges a couch for him to lie on. And Michael also turns up and drapes the couch with a purple garment. So there are lots of other stories about Gabriel which are not necessarily anything to do with the moon. And I would like you to think of Gabriel in your own life as potentially a teacher, an educator, a translator, an angel that you could go to for guidance. He can open the gateways for you for understanding more stuff. And that can be stuff in the world, like learning a new language, for example. Or it could be something like channeling. And Gabriel is a gateway. Look at the kingdom, look at the next sefira as you go up, and you can see, okay, here I am in my personal life in the kingdom. When I move up the tree of life on that path, I can meet Gabriel, and Gabriel can open gates for me to new wisdom of one kind or another. Gabriel can potentially help me with my examinations at the end of term, or Gabriel could help me learn all kinds of new things, or Gabriel can open the gate to working with the other archangels as you go up the tree. So that's one of the powerful things that Gabriel has done for the human race, is continually bringing stuff through the prophets and through the and through words. Jesus is actually called the Word, the living Word of God, right? And then Muhammad is almost transformed he is transformed into some kind of amazing poet. Muhammad says to Gabriel, I can't recite anything, because he's unlettered. He's reputed to have been unlettered. But what comes out of Muhammad's vision of Gabriel is this incredible book, which, whether it's your tradition or not, whether it's, it calls to you the Quran or not, it is apparently, and I don't know any Arabic myself, but it is apparently the most beautiful poetry. So that's what Gabriel can bring in the way of gifts. Any means of expression, music, words, poetry, and even physical modes of expression. Dance as well can be under Gabriel's remit. So let me just check my notes and make sure I've been covering everything up. There's another lovely story in here. I'll just read you this one because it's quite good fun, actually. King Solomon was warned by a prophecy that his daughter would marry a poor man, and he locked her up in a high tower. A travelling scholar seeking somewhere to sleep, found the skin of a dead ox near the bottom of the tower, and he curled up in it for the night. Then along came a hungry vulture who lifted up the remains of the ox and carried it with the scholar inside to the top of the tower. When the princess saw this handsome young man, she asked him to marry her. And since there were no humans present, the betrothal was witnessed by Gabriel, and Michael was there as well. And King Solomon was actually delighted, because although he tried to evade the prophecy, the young man was not only handsome, but he was also learned, and the king himself was a great seeker after wisdom. So I thought that I've always thought that was a lovely story about Gabriel getting involved, and also the young man was a scholar as well. Yes, Gabriel rules, like Mercury, is involved with the signs of Virgo and Gemini. So if those signs are strong for you in your own birth chart, which I hope you already know about, then you can feel a real connection to Gabriel's kind of energy. And as I say, that energy is both practical in the world, like writing books and so forth, but it's also can take you to gifts beyond this world, like receiving mystical insights or mystical poetry, like the Quran, or any other channeling that brings through, and perhaps something like the work that I did with the angel script. So generally, if you want to develop and improve your own communication skills, or if you want to commune with the angels or the spirits, then Gabriel is your archangel, really. And you can see that he, although I keep reminding you, there is really no gender for the archangels, you can see Gabriel appears on the balance pillar. And at this point, the threads from the top of the crown, which started to weave back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, have arrived at a place, the foundation, where they can then drop in to the kingdom. So this is why Gabriel is quite androgynous. That's what you see in Mercury. In statues of Mercury or Hermes, you often see that staff with the two energy snakes moving around it, the caduceus they call it. So Gabriel's energy reminds us of all those qualities, the bringing together of the opposites, the communing of the contraries, so that they don't compete with each other, but they move us forward into a state of balance where we can work with one energy or the other energy in this pulsing arrangement, which is so creative and potent, and is not ever destructive. Because if you see the energies as in opposition to each other, then you get into a situation where you get the possibility of creativity is not just diminished, but it's turned to dust, really. So we always in our lives have to work with bringing together the contraries. So this is why mediation is a topic for Gabriel as well, when there are squabbles between people, of quarrels, and where one person really has to understand and learn to listen to the other person to see the other point of view. So I think I mentioned the Gnostics earlier. The Gnostic scriptures are always talking about how the divine feminine and the divine masculine need to be coordinated into this divine marriage. And that's when everything becomes blessed, because they've acknowledged each other, they relate to each other, they don't compete with each other, and therefore they can help bringing the kingdom of heaven on earth. And this is a process that we should all be aware of when we look out into the world and we see all the competing factions and say, how do we walk almost like a tightrope of balance? Think of the tightrope walker and the pole that he's holding that helps to keep him in balance. That's how we have to work in the world. We have to understand that we are walking that middle balance pillar, that we can take on the energies from either side, and we make choices how that works in our personal life, and we don't keep one separate from the other. We allow them to support us. So now we've spoken about Sundial and Orion, and we've had a look at Gabriel. So this evening, you can, or tomorrow when you've got the next bit of time, listen to the guided journey for Gabriel and put your comments below. Tell me your experiences and bless you. I want to bless you while you're doing this work, and bless yourselves, bless other people. Just keep that flow of blessings going as you are going up the tree of life from the kingdom at the bottom. Think of yourself as Sundial, taking garlands of prayers and blessings up with you as you go, and enjoy your journey with Gabriel. And I do want to hear about it. I'll be back in the next video with another archangel further along the journey. Many blessings.